The People's Business is made possible by our partners, Solar Dynamics, the most efficient energy systems.
About disabilities is a worthy year-round cause. So tonight we are dedicating the show to increasing awareness about deaf issues, culture, and people. Good evening to you. Welcome to the People's Business. I'm Teshia Hinds. We're hoping this evening to create a more inclusive society through focusing on some of the ways that we can interact and engage with deaf people. To help us in this evening's discussion, let's welcome Bonnie Leonce and Paula Medford, who are sign language interpreters. We also have Wawa Snipe, who is a U.S. artist, joining us, and Lionel Smith, who is past and president advisor of the Barbados Horizon Deaf Charity. So welcome to our guest this evening, and certainly welcome to you. Thank you for viewing. Coming up after the break, we're going to start our discussion. That's next. Welcome back to this evening's presentation. Now, this is going to be a learning show where we get to know a little bit more about the people we're speaking with, and they're going to talk to us about all the ways that we really need to embrace them and create that more inclusive society that we've talked about. So once again, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. All right, I'm going to start with you, Paula. Let's talk a little bit about the modes of communication with the members of the deaf community. What are some of the modes of communication, the ways that they communicate and access communication in basic everyday places, at home, at school, in community, with friends?
Well, thanks, Tisha, for the question. But if you don't mind, I'd like to redirect either to Lionel or Bonnie for that question. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the interpreters who are facilitating this communication now. So we thank you for the
Okay, so let me go ahead because Paula might be having difficulty seeing Lionel from this angle. Interpreters are responsible for the free flow of communication between deaf and hearing people. That's how we communicate, through sign language. So the interpreters are the ones who are responsible for that mode of communication.
So, and I take direction from you as well. In terms of how, apart from accessing communication, how do they communicate? Because it won't be every situation where you have an interpreter. And I know for a long time, Bonnie, you've been in the media, but for a long time, it's only in recent times that we have interpreters for a lot of the presentations we do, for example, on television and so on. So generally, doing basic things in regular everyday life, how do they access information and then communicate? Talk to us about what that is like.
Okay, so let me start that off. So deaf people for a long time have been forced to lip read because many people don't know sign language. So we would like for as many people as possible to learn sign language, but obviously many people don't. So deaf people lip read, and that is, as we were told earlier this week in a workshop, over 75% of what you try to lip read is a guessing game. So that is not even a good way to try to communicate. But now in 2022, for the last few years, you've had deaf people who relate their information on their phones and show people, they're writing back and forth, but usually they're now using their phone because everyone has a smartphone. So they would type in what they want to say and show, and that's how they communicate. Now, all of that communication takes time. And so the challenge that the deaf community have is that you will have to meet someone who is willing to take the time and have the patience so that your um, ideas could be brought across clearly. Not everyone has the time to wait and figure out what a deaf person is saying on the phone, or they don't have the patience to write back and forth on a piece of paper. So the challenge is, yes, it seems that even the deaf community have the challenge on their shoulders of the ones who are trying to facilitate the communication when, the hearing community is just waiting for that communication to happen. So yes, they lip read, which is a lot of guessing. They write back and forth, which is still not ideal. And then they type on their phones back and forth so people can see the information. But obviously, it will be good if people know the basics in sign language so they'll be able to communicate in their own language, which is their first language.
All right, so you said a great deal, Bonnie, and we're going to try to dissect that as we move forward. But I want to talk to you, Lionel. I know that you were a student of the Irving Wilson School. Talk to us about what going to school there was like, because what Bonnie told us is that there are not as many deaf people who know sign language as they should. So what's it like going to school there? And, how has that prepared you for doing basic things in your everyday life?
So when I went to the Irving Wilson School, I was about 3. So I was there until 18. I did no CXCs. It was a different curriculum at that point in time. I was not able to do CXCs. I left school, I graduated. I did learn different skills. My sister, for example, she went to Springer, and I compared what she was learning with the education that I was receiving. It was completely different. I was noticing that when I was around 11. So I was noticing what was taking place at my sister's school, or looking at her school books. There were many things that were different from what we were learning: language, science, right? The various textbooks that they had received at secondary school. But we didn't have those things at Urban Wilson. We had very few textbooks. So when I graduated and I was looking for a job, I wasn't able to find one because I had no CXCs.
How has this, outside of, and I mean not being able to find a job, seeking employment is major. It's a major thing. So, you know, without delving too deeply into your personal information, how are you able then to survive doing the basics? Because as an adult, obviously you need to make a living. I would imagine this is one of the many ways that you feel disadvantaged.
So I would have sent out CVs. There have been no response. So I sent out many CVs, many applications. Others in the deaf community have also tried to find jobs. Deaf individuals who do have skills. And people are not willing to give attention to the skills that we do have, what we are able to do. So I was able to volunteer at a hearing school. And that is how I was able to begin working. But there's really no provision through the government. So basically I would have to support myself by assistance from the government.
All right, so I want to include Warren, Wawa, Snipe. I certainly hope I'm pronouncing your moniker correctly. But you are an artist. And for many people, I guess some of the questions we might be asking might seem very basic to you, but we want to make sure that our viewers completely understand you know, where we're coming from when we say you are an artist, you are a traveling artist, and you perform hip hop and rap. So talk to us about how you got into hip hop and rap and being an artist, and how you're able to share your craft with the people who come out to see you perform.
I've been doing hip hop for a long time. Yes, I'm using my voice, but I'll let you know right off the bat, I am deaf, regardless of what you look at me at. So I'm proud of being deaf. Just to let you know, deaf people can speak. Some chose not to, some can't. But I'll let you know, signing is the best thing ever for the deaf community. Okay? So, but yeah, I'm a hip hop artist. I rap. My voice is on the track and the music. And then I have a DJ who is hearing, but he also signs, and he produces the music for me as well. So we travel around the world, and I set up a music genre called hip hop, which means hip hop with deaf eyes, which means I expose that culture through music. And yes, deaf people do enjoy music because music sees no color, none, does not discriminate anything. It's a form of communication and expression. It's the beauty of it. I'm an actor, so I've performed on TV and many things, so that's what I'm here, and I'm really blessed to be here in the beautiful country of Barbados to help that community. We got work to do.
Obviously. So back to you, Warren, again. Tell me what the journey was like getting into performance, getting into you know, being on stage, acting, and all of the other ways, the forms of expression that you are engaged with.
Well, I come from a very music family background. My whole family just loves music, so they were singing R&B or rock and roll or jazz, those things. But then when rap came into it, that was something different for me. That caught my attention because I wasn't feeling or hearing any singing, but it was just fast spoken words. So I was able to figure out what is that. And they said people told me that's rap. Okay, what are they saying? So my sister decided to write the lyrics of rap. And so she wrote the words, the lyrics, gave me the paper, and then the speaker here inside, and she would stand in front of me. So music is playing. I will be reading and looking at my sister while she's moving her mouth. I'm lip reading, going back and forth, and I'm feeling the music at the same time. Once I'm able to keep going, so I'm like reading, watching, feeling, reading, watching, feeling. Everything goes around in triangle. Then I was able to just say, my sister, okay, you can relax. I'm going to try to read and feel to understand the timing and see if I can recognize some words on that. So I practiced that. Then I'm able to take away the lyrics, the paper, and then feel and know what the person is saying because I memorized the lyrics. So I liked it. And at the same time, I enjoy poetry. So I started writing poems, and my friend later asked me to convert it into rap. Wasn't sure how to do that. But once I learned, I got hooked, and the rest is history.
All right, we certainly would love to hear more about your travels and what you're doing, and most certainly what brings you to Barbados. But I want to redirect to Bonnie. I know that much of this discussion came out of a workshop where there was much talk about, basic interactions with members of the deaf community and how difficult it can be for them to do basic things. So we're going to delve into that when we come back after this break. Stay with us. Welcome back to this special presentation of The People's Business. This evening we're joined by Paula Medford, who is a sign language interpreter. Also with us, Warren Wawa Snipe, who is an artist, and Lionel Smith, who is past and president advisor to the Barbados Horizon Deaf Charity. Bonnie, I saved you for last because I'm going to go directly to you with a question we mentioned before we went to break. Sometimes it's so difficult for basic interactions with people from the deaf community and those of us in society who are not deaf. So what are some of the areas that we need to work on, the areas where we need to improve so that we make our society far more inclusive?
Okay, so before you left, you were talking about a workshop that was held last week. So I will use that and bring forward. So I held a workshop last week, a deaf awareness workshop. It was for businesses and organizations because everybody, most companies and businesses interact with deaf people. Pretty much all, because you wouldn't even know a deaf person unless you start to communicate and realize that they're deaf. So this workshop, which is part of, well, it was part of a big project, the Calypso project, which is why Warren Wawa is here, and he could share more about that. But in that workshop, there were many people there representing different organizations, NGOs, and the purpose was to expose them to the challenges that deaf people face on a daily basis and how we could help bridge that gap. For example, a big issue that people don't seem to understand or realize is that deaf people have children in primary and secondary school. Many times, as you would know, there are class level meetings and deaf people would like to be included. So sometimes a deaf parent would message me and ask if I'm free, can you come? Can you or can I speak to the teacher one-on-one apart from the class, or can you come and interpret for me for my child's class because I want to know what's happening? And that's something we take for granted. We just decide we don't want to show up to a meeting or we don't want to show up to a PTA meeting, but deaf people want to be included. That's a basic thing that they would like. They have children and they're interested in their children's development. So something like as simple as just having access to a class level meeting is very, very important. Walking into a, a bank and you pull a number as opposed to the bank having the numbers saying which customer is being served next. So you'll normally hear now serving customer number 3 unless you now have that 3 blinking, and most financial institutions have it now, but before that was a major hurdle. So a deaf person will sit down and wonder why the people before are coming ahead of them when they have a ticket saying number 3, but obviously they don't know number 3 was called. Uh, Basic things. We're still in COVID, but we don't have the masks wearing as much, and that was a huge challenge for the deaf community because even though people wore masks and were behind the glass, people were still unwilling to just lower it, or for the deaf person to just lower it and say, what they wanted and just pull it back up. People were very uncooperative. So there were a lot of issues discussed. There were deaf people present and people from all over who were just trying to figure out how they could make society more inclusive and how we can raise more awareness so that deaf people have more access to everything that the average Barbadian has access to.
Well, let me ask Lionel. Lionel, let me ask you directly what that was like for you. I can only imagine that it must have been quite frustrating for you during that period where they were wearing masks and things of that nature. So talk to us about some of the personal challenges that you experienced during that time.
It was a challenging situation during the 2 years of COVID-19. The masks were a barrier to communication. For example, if I went to a fast food restaurant, for example, I might be able to show what I wanted to order. I may have placed my order and then they call the order number, but I would have been unaware that my number was called. And even more so with the mask, that would have been challenging. But no, there has been an improvement with the servers there. At Chefette, but at KFC, they totally disregard our needs, the needs of the deaf.
All right, so let's use tonight as a night to let you know we're not calling you out, and it's not meant to be negative, but hopefully it will put us on a different trajectory when we think about the way that we engage with the deaf community, even the lingo that we use. Because in engaging with you, Warren, before we started, a lot of the pages online say that you should say hearing impaired. But that is not, that is not how you wish to be referred to. So I would imagine the advice that you would give for a lot of people is find out first, ask a question before you even start the communication process. So talk to us about some of the changes that have been made over the years and what we can do as hearing people to help include you more in the way that we communicate. That's for you, Warren.
I think the question for you guys who are hearing is this. Anytime, any place, you can lose your hearing at any time. What are the resources you have right now that will give you access? Now, some of you probably might think, oh, texting or writing, okay, can you do that every day, all day? Kind of a struggle. And here's another thing I want to challenge you to do. I know every last one of you watch TV, watch the news like this. The challenge is this. Turn off or lower the volume all the way down. Okay? Just lip read. See if you can understand everything that goes on that TV show, program, anything. I challenge you to try that for at least 4 hours if you can, or an hour. I can continue. You won't succeed in it. So if you struggle on that for 1 hour, imagine what deaf people go through every day, not having access to anything. If it's emergency, things that's happening dangerous, deaf people are wondering what's going on. No one's giving them information. They have a right. Deaf people, we are human, just like you, hearing people. So, as I did a workshop on Friday, and I told them, and I will tell you, you guys are the CEO of your life. Are you satisfied with everything you have right now? Total inclusion, what does that mean to you? So I'd like for you to think about that. Analyze that.
Well, that certainly gives us some food for thought. Go ahead, Bonnie.
So let me add on to what Warren was saying to tie into your question, which may have got lost in translation a bit, about what deaf people prefer to be called. Because when some people still say hearing impaired, and like you said, you said hearing impaired, and Warren said he preferred deaf, and Lionel also said he preferred to use the term deaf. So for quite some time and quite a few years, the word deaf has been used as opposed to hearing impaired. And the simple reason for that is deaf people say the word impairment speaks as if something is broken or needs fixing, and they don't. Deaf has always been a word of pride, and so there are people who are just, many people generally just use the term deaf. There are some who will use the term hard of hearing. So you will hear either the deaf community or the deaf and hard of hearing community, and that's for people who prefer to use the term hard of hearing based on the amount of loss they have in their ears. But when you say deaf community, that is all inclusive. But for sure, hearing impaired is a term that has gone out the door for quite some time now. So you're even having some countries who taking the words hearing impaired off their books. There are some institutions who had, let's say, the whatever for the hearing impaired, they've changed it to say deaf community. So that's how serious it is. There are some churches overseas who have had a church that services just the deaf community, and years ago they used hearing impaired, and they have also removed that. So it's as serious as that, because deafness speaks of identity, and that word deaf is a symbol of pride for the deaf community.
Well, that's good to
Exactly.
hear. And, you know, it is great that we are moving along by sharing this information, because for a long time, even here in broadcasting, we would say we have an interpreter for the
For
hearing
the hearing
impaired.
impaired,
So,
yeah,
you know, now that we know better, we can do better. So,
better.
for you, Lionel, what do you wish that other people could understand about your experience?
I'd also like to add, before I answer your question, I'd also like to add, I prefer the word deaf because it is a strong culture, strong history. It involves pride. I would never say I'm hearing impaired. There might be some confusion as to what do individuals prefer, deaf or hearing impaired, but I prefer deaf. As Bonnie had already explained, the importance of the use of the word deaf. It embodies our culture, our history, so many other things.
So let me step in here, Paula.
That's
So
right, go
so
ahead.
so small d deaf speaks more of a medical term. You could sign El's voice. So small d deaf speaks more of a medical term, but big D deaf speaks more of culture. So even when we are writing, and we would use either a capital D or a common D. The common D usually, like if an audiologist, a medical terminology where you say someone is deaf, and we would use the small d deaf. But when you see the big D deaf, that is more cultural and shows more of an identity and a historical culture behind who we say we are as deaf people. That's
All
what he
right.
just said.
Well, we definitely have a ways to go. What we're going to do is invite you to come in with your calls
Thank you,
on
Bonnie.
228-5562 and 228-5563. The way technology is going, hopefully one day we will be able to bring some deaf people in on a call-in television program like this as well, and have them share their questions with us. Tonight, we can't particularly do that. If we have members of the deaf community at home who would like to share, then you might need to communicate with people around you and have your questions or comments shared with us. But we are inviting you to come on in and share. So after the break, we will take a few of your calls and comments and continue speaking with our guests on tonight's special presentation. Stay with us. On tonight's presentation of The People's Business, we are focusing on some of the ways we can create a more inclusive society for the deaf community who are here with us in society and who want to be able to do basic things that we take for granted, some of them. Here with us is Warren Wawa Snipe, and he is an artist. He's a hip-hop artist, hip-hop and rap. and he's also an actor. So for those of us who are unsure of how he does it, he explained a little bit earlier exactly how he's able to get his music and his love for music out to the people who come out to see him. So talk to me about what it was like initially when you said to people, Warren, I want to be a hip hop artist. I'm going to travel the world, and I know that you have performed at Super Bowl, which is a major thing. So talk to us about what it was like initially when you decided, this is what I want to do. What was the response like?
When I told people what I wanted to do, I got mocked. I got ridiculed. Some were supported, but many kept saying, how? How you be able to communicate with another person on the set? Well, in the US, we provide interpreters. Have it. I can communicate my signs, but I've been acting for a long time. When doing the music, it's pretty much of a different ball game because you have to make sure the sound check. I'm not really professional or understanding about sound check of this exact volume. So that's what the DJ is for. So we tag team to help each other. He does the music part, I do the sound and visual part. So it comes together and it works. Unity. Yeah, so growing up now, I had people tell me, no, it's impossible. Deaf people can't do music, can't perform, can't, perform, but do music, music video, things like that, live shows. That was challenging, but it was a challenge accepted because I knew I had the skills. And I'm gonna let you try to take my dream away? No. So I worked hard. I worked hard not for to prove to you, but to prove to myself, to challenge myself, to elevate myself. And every time I get better at it, I'm closer to my dream. Now I live my dream. And now that's the door open. If I can do that, how many others? Through your encouragement, through your compromise, through your willingness. Oftentimes, people will see a deaf person, and the first thing comes up in their mind is pity. We never ask for that. We ask you to help us, help you communicate with us.
All right, good stuff. We have a caller on the line, so let's go ahead and say welcome. Thanks for joining us on The People's Business. Good evening.
Good evening, Teshia. I just want to say that 15 years ago, I learned sign language at the Disabilities Unit, and that came because as a teacher, there were children who came to my school who were naturally hearing impaired, and that is really what gave me the drive to go to do it. And I really do think because of where we are in the world now, I think, yes, everybody should be inclusive, especially the hearing impaired people. And I think that I would like to suggest that all businesses, doctors, all the NIS, hotels, the people at the front desk, when you go to a hotel, I've been to a hotel, not here, in St. Lucia, and the receptionist was obviously not able to communicate with sign language, interpret, because there were at least 6 or 7 people who came in who were unable to communicate with her. So I'm saying that the time has come where businesses need to have at least 1 or 2 of their staff trained in sign language. So that is one of the things that I just wanted to contribute, because I think it is really now like everyday language, and because it is another language. And I think that businesses need to put their people, on board by having at least one person at least. When you go to NIS, I've been to NIS and had to help a hearing impaired person, at the front desk, find her way around and know where to go, etc. Because nobody naturally at the company knows sign language. So I really do think that the time has come that these businesses need to have that on board, just like how they have everything else at their companies. So that's my contribution tonight, Teshia.
And thank you so much for sharing. That truly means a lot. I wanna pass that over to Lionel and hear from Lionel his thoughts on exactly what the caller said about businesses moving to have at least one person who is able to communicate through sign language.
Okay, you sign, Paula. I'll voice. Okay. Yes, I really believe in what the caller said. It's really important for businesses to have people who know sign language. We we really want to be able to have a mentor relationship. So, like businesses can have deaf people to help train and learn sign language and to have like a mentoring scenario. But that's another way that we can be included, but it is better if a deaf person could be there to help in the process so that people could improve their communication skills. And you never know what can happen in another 10 years. Some people could lose their hearing and actually need to use the language. For example, a lot of deaf people aren't working. That would be a really good opportunity to incorporate deaf people, even in the simplest things, just a simple change to come in and help with the learning of sign language so that people's businesses could become more successful.
Certainly, very interesting. So let's go now to you then, Warren. What is your experience as someone who lives in a different country? You live in the US and you travel around the world. What's the response like, or how are other countries really keeping up when it comes to making societies more inclusive for deaf people?
It's amazing. And now we still have room to grow. I mean, this world is because one, it's the 21st century. It is time now. So there's access where they have VRS, which is video relay services, where a deaf person can make a call through the relay communicator who does sign language to make the call to, like, say, make an appointment. We don't need to depend on we can do it ourselves by direct, indirect signing, and whenever the person picks the phone, person voice interpreters like we're doing right now. But that building more of independency. You have FaceTime, we do that. Interpreters provided in several things. So right now, that's been evolving over the years, getting better and better and better. So to a point that where we come to a place where we get to now request and we get that service. And in all over the world, we've been fighting for that for years and years. But what made the change is because of what the deaf community, and the hearing community, is that we invite the hearing community into our deaf space. Means we're willing to let you in, teach you sign language, let you understand what we have to show, what we have to offer, so you can understand our view. Like I said, deaf people have similar things that hearing people do, and some concepts, but we just have signs. That's all we ask for is make us feel equal to you by helping us help you to communicate with us. So that's been improving around the world. Now, there's some countries that still oppress the deaf community, and it's bad because some would think that deaf people are abomination, but really, we're not. So we work hard to get where we are today. So the oppression is really needs to be get rid of, needs to be changed right now. Because again, you're talking about you as a hearing people, you can become deaf anytime, any place, and at any time. Okay, anything can happen. Or maybe not you, maybe your grandchild or your children. What would you do to help them? Would you reject them because they're deaf? Or would you find anything you can do to help your child or grandchild or you? Well, that's the question that you need to think about. And what can you do to help? So we invite you to our space to work with you, and we're hoping we can partner to build, to lift everyone up as one community.
We're hoping to bring awareness to the issues, some of the issues that the deaf community experience on a daily basis on our move toward creating a far more inclusive society. When we come back, more discussion, and we take more of your calls. Stay with us. Welcome back to The People's Business. Tonight we are focusing on some of the ways we can create a more inclusive society for the deaf among us. Let's go back to the telephone line. We have a caller. Good evening to you. Welcome.
Good night, Teshia, Hinds, to you and your guests.
Thank you. Welcome.
Yeah, I believe that the educational institutions needs to play a greater role for the deaf community. And at the same way, the average person can go to school and have their CHC, the associate degree, degrees, etc., that they should be given this opportunity. Moreover, corporate society need to embrace those persons so that they can be employed and they have a sense of independence and pride within themselves, because we have a society in which a select number of persons are disenfranchised or marginalized. Then it poses a problem, and not only a problem to the society but also to the families. It put pressure on those families. And the guy from Urban Wilson, he said earlier that when he compared the work that his sister was doing in comparison to him, that shows us the inequality with this community. I think we need to be more upfront and put in all of our effort to help the deaf community in Barbados and general, so that they can feel a part of society.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. And that's one of the things that really stayed with me from the time Lionel said it. So, let me go to you, Lionel. What are some of the things you would like to see in terms of education and how we approach the way deaf people are taught?
Okay. Education is really important. And it's important that deaf children have someone to look up to, like a role model. People have different kinds of professions. So, for example, in the US, they have a law that was passed called the Americans with Disabilities Act. Barbados doesn't have any laws that protect deaf people specifically. Uh, we don't have accessible services. There are deaf people who are deaf doctors, who are deaf pilots, deaf journalists, because they have the opportunity in bigger countries through the educational system. We don't have that here. Uh, I'm hoping soon that, some laws will be set up to protect, not only to protect, but give disabled people more access. So I know that, for example, I studied at the BCC through the Ministry of Youth. It was a short program about tourism and hospitality, and I had an interpreter there. It was really important to have an interpreter there who was able to facilitate communication. And I studied, I believe, for 6 weeks, and I was really successful. But then my teacher encouraged me to go ahead and to really join BCC, you know, and I would have been really proud to be able to do that, and I would have been really proud to do that. Um, but I wasn't able to go that route because we really need a lot of access through interpreters. So I'm hoping that we change our educational system so that people have more access and more opportunities on the island.
Most certainly. All right, let's take another call. We have another caller on the line. Good evening. Welcome.
Hi, good evening. Over the past several months, I interpreted for a student at skills training for the auto mechanics program at the St. Luke's Center. He was given 4 week job attachment at the UCAL, and I just want to publicly thank UCAL, the staff and the management of UCAL for giving him the opportunity. So there are some businesses out there that actually do give the deaf an opportunity. That's my contribution. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. Bonnie, your interactions are far greater than ours, have been for a very long time. And I know for a long time, even in our private discussions, you've talked about the fact that because you've interpreted on television for a long time, there are a lot of people who are surprised that you can speak and that you can hear as well. So even the whole idea of people looking on and forming opinions about who you are and what you can do without even knowing what you can do, is one of the many hurdles that members of the deaf community have to get over. So, in wrapping, tell us some of the ways that we can try to change the way that we discriminate.
Okay, I can wrap that all up with all the three callers and the last thing Wawa said. We need to be more inclusive in simple ways. We, for example, a greater example, we think that deaf people being able to access something is very expensive. What it really takes is people being patient and trying to see how they can best facilitate communications. Sign language is always the number one goal for people to try to learn sign language. There are businesses out there who are now asking for training for their staff. And, pretty soon you're going to be seeing and hearing a lot of companies because they are training their staff and they are willing to hire deaf people in the very near future, give them training, offer internships. There are businesses who have partnered with members of the deaf community, even businesses who've partnered through the Barbados Council for the Disabled, through the Deaf Ambassador Program, where they have deaf interns, and those internships have been going really, really well. So these are simple ways. Yes, you can learn sign language, but what we need to do is to be patient and to be able to say, you know what, this person deserves a chance. As Lionel said, the education system needs to change. There are a lot of changes that need to be made. But what I will say is that hearing people like me and you need to join and stand with the deaf community. And where we see things that are literally not right, we can say, you know what? No, this is not right. This is not what equality looks like. This is not what access looks like. And when we see things where deaf people are seen as lesser than, we speak up and we stand with them to make sure that their lives are on the same level as ours as hearing people, which is equal.
Warren, final word from you.
I said a lot of things, so, but I do would like to ask you, and if you know that I'm asking questions, I'm challenging you guys, and then I'm hoping you guys really take it to the heart, keep trying, be willing to be open. But the question is, are you hearing people of Barbados willing to work with the deaf community? They have so much to give. Their doors is already open. The question is, will you step in and work with them?
And last but certainly not least, the final word is yours, Lionel. What are the last words you'd like to leave with Barbados as we move toward a more inclusive society for members of the deaf community?
Okay. We're really excited. I'll show you about that, but we're really excited. One of the reasons Wawa is here, because we have a big concert, a musical concert, which is all deaf people. So that is a really big deal. We'll have deaf people, steel pan. We'll have signed songs. We'll hear Warren rapping. We'll have interpreters there. It's going to be a huge concert at Frank Holloman Hall on November 9th, and it's free. And the time is 6:15. And lastly, I just want to add that we can help improve the situations with deaf and hearing people, just like what Bonnie and Wawa said. We need the support. We need active support. We need changes in attitude so that you can stand together with us and help Barbados improve and offer a more deaf-friendly service in your space.
Oh, thank you so much, and a great place to end this evening's discussion. Lionel Smith is past president, now president advisor to the Barbados Horizon Deaf Community. Also with us, we had Warren Wawa Snipe, who's a U.S. artist, and he is going to be performing at that mega concert coming up on the 9th. Paula Medford, who joined us in her capacity as a sign language interpreter, and of course Bonnie Leonce, who is also a sign language interpreter, but who also shared with us from her personal experiences. Thanks to those of you who viewed, those of you who got in to speak with us today. Thank you for sharing, and do continue asking questions, learning and advocating for this worthy cause, because building inclusive communities for all is the responsibility of all. On behalf of the entire team, do have a good evening and a great week ahead. I'm Teshia Hinds.